Here's a question I spent years not thinking to ask. If the pack leader theory is wrong, and I'll get to why it is, then what are you exactly to your dog? For the first couple of years I had dogs, I had a ready answer. I was the alpha. I walked through the door first. I sat before they got fed. I trained myself out of anything that might signal softness, because the books I'd read told me that softness was confusion, that a dog needed clarity, and clarity looked like rank. I read everything I could find on this. I followed the rules carefully, and the whole time, without knowing it, I was solving the wrong problem. Welcome to the channel. This is what we do every week. Break down the science of what's actually going on in your dog's head. Today we're going into what you actually are to your dog. The science has a specific word for it. It maps onto something most of us already understand deeply. And it has nothing to do with hierarchies. So what are you to your dog? The pack leader theory has a traceable origin. In the 1960s and 70s, researchers studying wolf behavior drew most of their conclusions from captive packs, groups of unrelated animals put together in enclosures and left to sort themselves out. What emerged looked like a dominance hierarchy, an animal at the top. Others who deferred to it, that framework got simplified, handed to dog trainers, and for decades it ran almost unquestioned. Here's the problem. The biologist most associated with that work, L. David Mech, spent a significant part of the following decades trying to correct it. In a 1999 paper in the Canadian Journal of Zoology, Mech argued that wild wolf packs don't work the way the captive studies suggested. A wild wolf pack is a breeding pair and their offspring. It's a family. The dynamics that look like dominance in captive animals are the product of stress and crowding, not the natural structure of the species. He has said publicly that he wished he could take the original book out of print. And then there's the dog problem. Domestic dogs aren't wolves kept in enclosures. They're a different animal shaped by a different history, one that has unfolded alongside humans for somewhere between 15,000 and 40,000 years. Their social world was built around that relationship, not wolf pack dynamics. So, when researchers stopped asking who's in charge and started asking, what does this dog actually feel about this person? The answer looked nothing like a rank chart. In the late 1990s, a researcher named János Topál, working with a team in Budapest, decided to take a framework that developmental psychologists had been using with human infants and apply it to dogs and their owners. The test is called the strange situation. It was designed in the 1960s to study attachment bonds between babies and their caregivers. You put the child, or in this case, your dog, in a room with their primary person. You have that person leave. You watch what happens. You bring the person back. You watch again. What Topál found mirrored, almost exactly, what the infant studies had found decades earlier. With owners present, dogs explored the room freely. When owners left, stress responses spiked. A stranger coming in and staying, not the owner, just a person, made no difference. Your dog already knows the difference between a person and you. When the owner returned, the stress came down. That is the behavioral signature of an attachment bond. The academic term, used in the published literature to describe what a dog has with their primary person, is attachment figure, secure base. It describes a relationship where one being uses another as a home point, a reference, a place the nervous system returns to after exploration. Here's what that looks like in your house. When your dog follows you from room to room, that's not neediness. That's proximity maintenance, a core behavior of an attached animal tracking their secure base. When your dog checks back on walks, not because of the leash, just turns and looks, that's attachment monitoring, a quiet background process running continuously. Still there. Last January, it was a rough stretch, and I wasn't handling it quietly. I didn't say a word about it to Noodle. One evening, I was sitting at the kitchen table, just sitting, and he got up from his spot on the rug and walked over and lay down against the side of my foot. He wasn't asked. He wasn't trained for that. He read something, the cortisol in the air, the tension in how I was sitting, something, and he responded to it. That's attachment behavior. The secure base goes both ways. Here's where the biology gets stranger. To understand how they read us so well, Gregory Burns, a neuroscientist at Emory University, figured out how to train dogs to lie still in an MRI scanner. fully awake, no sedation, no restraints, and scan their brains. What that opened was a window into your dog's mind that hadn't existed before. In studies coming out of that work, Burns and his team looked at what happened in a dog's brain when it encountered different scents: the owner's scent, a stranger's scent, another dog, a familiar dog, the caudate nucleus, the brain's reward center. The region that activates in anticipation of something good showed its strongest, most consistent response to the owner's scent. I want to be precise about what that finding says and what it doesn't. It doesn't say stronger than food as a flat statement. What it says is, in most of the dogs they studied, the scent of the person they lived with reliably activated the reward system, even when that person wasn't in the room. Your scent is doing something in your dog's brain that the brain maps as reward. And your dog gets to your normal scent before they see your face. But it goes deeper than just recognizing who you are. Cortisol, the stress hormone, leaves its own chemical signature in the air. So does adrenaline. Before you arrange your expression, before you say anything, your dog has already registered your state. That's why they seem to know. They do know. They read the chemistry before the words, but they don't just read us with their noses. They do it with their eyes. In 2015, a team led by Miho Nagasawa published a study in the journal Science. They looked at what happens when dogs and their owners make sustained eye contact. Mutual gaze, the real kind, where both are present. In 30 dog owner pairs who held each other's gaze, oxytocin increased in both the dog and the owner at the same time. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, the same chemical involved in the bond between a mother and a newborn. The same team ran the test with hand-raised wolves, wolves comfortable around humans. The wolves did not show the effect. This is co-evolution, thousands of years living alongside us, and dogs were shaped to bond using the same chemistry we use to bond with our children. Researchers have also found that your dog shows a left gaze bias specifically when looking at human faces, not dog faces, not objects. Their visual attention itself, over generations, evolved around reading us. Sesame stops on the trail, turns, waits. She's not checking the leash. She's checking her safe base is still there. Here's what this changes. The job isn't to be the boss. It never was. Not authority, not a rank to hold, not the alpha position your dog was never waiting for. An attachment figure, a secure base. The person who's sent their reward center maps as good before they've seen your face. And honestly, that's a harder job than being the leader. Because being a safe place means they feel it when we come home running on cortisol and expect the dog to pretend they can't smell it. It means when our routines shatter without warning, their anxiety isn't them misbehaving. It's them losing their anchor. A safe place is consistent in the way that actually matters to an attached animal, not rules enforced at the door, but predictability, not dominance, presence. I'm still working on this. I don't say that as a throwaway. Some weeks. Noodle is doing a better job monitoring my emotional state than I am managing it. But knowing what the job actually is, knowing you are the attachment figure, the secure base, the person this animal's nervous system is quietly oriented around, that changes how you think about every interaction. Not the boss, the safe place. It's a different job entirely. I spent years walking through the door first, eating before the dogs, performing a structure that the science says never mapped onto what they actually needed from me. Not because I was cruel, not because I didn't care about them, not because the theory sounded wrong on the surface. It didn't. I had the wrong model. Here's the right one. You're not the pack leader. You're the attachment figure. You're the safe place this animal's nervous system returns to. You're the scent that means reward before you've said a word. The gaze that raises oxytocin. The base they're quietly monitoring while they're out in the world. That is everything. Not as a sentiment, as a mechanism. Does your dog do something that, looking back, was probably just them checking that you were okay? Tell me about it in the comments. Those are the ones I come back to. I read every one of them. I always do. See you in the next one.